The eternal Battletech challenge. So many mechs, so little time to play them. Even with Alpha Strike, getting all the mechs on the table all the time. Choices must be made. And with the Firestarter, I find from experience the Firestarter is a very interesting mech. Certainly it's specialized for a very specific role in the narrative. Whether we can utilize that role or not on the table depends on the mission, depends on the mechs, and depends on, I believe, heavily the terrain, not necessarily woods. But also, I find the Firestarter to be very misleading. And I say that because as a light mech, it has decent speed. It certainly has some decent firepower with the flamers and the lasers. And it encourages you to want to get up close to cut down on, not only for the flamers, just the sheer range factor of them, similar to machine gun range, but with the medium lasers, I want to get up there and not be shooting at long range. I'd like to be at short. I'd like to be at medium because I'm going to have movement modifiers at a minimum. I'm going to try and have movement modifiers, maximum movement, as a light mech to stay alive. I find that I tend to push the Firestarter a little bit harder, a little bit faster than I should, and I tend to get in a lot of trouble. Not going against like stalkers. It can hold its own against light mechs, but certainly against heavier vehicles or medium mechs, there is the illusion that the Firestarter, based on the weapons output, could take on a medium mech. And I think most medium mechs will eventually eat the Firestarter and take it out. So I have to be a little bit more restrained on that. In terms of utilizing it, not so much for burning down woods. I've done that once or twice to create some smoke, but on the hex maps, most of the Battletech hex maps, or I should say the current Battletech hex maps, I know we're getting the reprint, the idea of the flow of the game is to have clusters of terrain followed by open patches. So it encourages movement in the game. And I like the maps. They are very well balanced because if you want to kind of hole up and castle up in some terrain, there's other pockets that your opponent can flank and move around. Or likewise, if you find you're trying to utilize terrain for cover or for elevation and you're being overrun, you can make a mad dash to something else. So certainly the maps make things very fluid. But to get the most out of the Firestarter, we need static targets. We need targets in terms of hexes, in terms of equipment that is not going to move. This is where I find the Firestarter in a city fight type setup. And city fight, either just total city tech where it's a massive city, or if there's a mission where there's a cluster of buildings or a cluster point that the mission is going to rally around. Say like a recon mission, go into the center of the table, recover some lost tech, some data cores, get out of there. If I know where the action's going to be, that little bit of flame works extremely well. Anti-infantry. The irony being, I mean, now we're getting into like war crimes with the Firestarter, but I guess being a mech warrior, you don't think of the dispossessed as anything worthy of anything. We have stuff like the Vulcan mech. We have dedicated anti-infantry vehicles. Nothing is more anti-infantry than the Firestarter. And this is the duality, I feel like, where it plays into your meta or it plays into your partners, gaming partners that you play with. I believe that regardless of the battle value you're playing, you should have two stands of infantry. Maybe they are jump infantry. Maybe they are just full infantry with some sort of support, maybe Goblin ground support or Karnov air support. But what infantry bring to the game in terms of spotting, in terms of digging in and as mechs pass by or as holding a point, for the battle value, infantry are amazing. And if you have enough infantry with the right terrain, even some field guns and stuff or some light artillery in a city, they are a massive pain to dig out. And if you have other mechs in tandem working with those infantry, combined arms, now there's the duality of, well, I want to blow up the infantry. I want to take out the infantry, but I've got these mechs I have to deal with. And every turn it's free shots by those infantry. And I have had my infantry take out mechs. And infantry are especially deadly to light mechs. They're somewhat deadly to medium mechs. Okay, a heavy assault mech you walk by, but you walk around a few times taking damage, that's free infantry damage going against you, plus the damage from opposing mechs. This is where the Firestarter versus infantry is just insane. I don't want to say don't roll the dice to see what happens in terms of damage, but it's just crazy on there. So their ability to flush out or smoke out infantry is a great alpha, where if you're playing combined arms, if I can remove my opponent's infantry completely and leave mine up, even if it's worth, the Mech Warrior doesn't want to hear this, even if it's worth sacrificing the Firestarter to do that, that is a tremendous, tremendous advantage. So do we include the Firestarter? I don't play it enough, simply because there are so many amazing mechs. But every time I do play it, because of its extreme tactical focus, I find it forces me to become very, very creative. And with my list building, with how we play, we agree on the battle value, we agree on the mission, the terrain. We kind of know ahead of time, or maybe not, but we set it up. So certainly I take it blindly going in, or I take it going into a scenario where I don't really have a role for it other than these defined roles. And I have to see, what does my opponent bring? What is the mission? What is the terrain? But adapting that extreme narrative to it makes it a fun mech to play. Just be careful when you play it. Don't get a little too aggressive on there, because again, the weapons loadout does tend to favor. I should say the Firestarter is a light mech that has everybody fooled that it's a medium mech.